Yo, 1 2 1 2. What's the word, y'all? Vinnie Paz, I'm back again. September 28th, looks like September 28th. Mad late at night, so early on the 28th. My buddy Edgar's here. He might be out of the shot. Shout outs to Edgar. So yeah, last time I asked if y'all might be interested in sending some questions, and it was a resounding yes. I got mad questions, too many to answer this episode, so keep them coming, and I'll get around to eventually I'll get around to all of them, because it gives me more ideas and material to work with, rather than doing the same thing over and over. Like I've said before, boxing is a huge part of my life, but I realize that everybody doesn't enjoy that aspect of it, so I'll keep that towards the end, unless of course they come up in the questions. In that case, I'll answer them during that time, but I'll save the boxing part towards the end of each video. There wasn't any big fights this weekend. Jorge Linares fought. He fought Crawler, but in the UK, so you had to watch it in the States on a stream, or something like that. But Jorge Linares retained his belt at 130 and looked good doing it. So yeah, again, kind of contradicting myself already off the rip by saying that I'll wait for the end for boxing. But anyway, so thank you for all your support of The Void, the single that's out now, and supporting it on YouTube and whatnot, all the DJs that's playing it. Salute. So yeah, I got a little something yesterday that y'all might be interested in. This is a copy of the Cornerstone of the Corner Store. I haven't opened it or anything. As I've told y'all before, I don't listen to my own shit, so there's not really any reason to open it, other than to make sure that everything came out right the way I wanted it to, and I know that it did. So yeah, that's the cover. This is the CD. Obviously we're going to do vinyl, and obviously you'll be able to get it digitally, of course. This is the back for anybody that cares about the track listing or whatnot. Yeah, so Enemy Soil Records, October 28th, the Cornerstone of the Corner Store. I told y'all before, I'm very happy with it, super proud of it. I don't put anything out that I'm not proud of, so I'm excited for it. So is Edgar. So yeah, we can start with some questions. There's already like 6 pages that were sent over to me of emails. I'm assuming there's more, and you can send us questions, and I'll get at them. The email address is info@jmthiphop.com, and in the subject, just put questions for Paz. That way, you don't get lost in the sauce. So yeah, let me start off. Like I said, there was a lot of good questions. So if I don't read your questions this time, it's not that I didn't get them or that they weren't good. I'll try to. There's too many to get to in one episode. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to be too long-winded with y'all. It get tedious maybe listening to me talk for too long. So yeah, all right. Let me see here. My eyes are bad, so pardon the squinting. Okay, so you showed that Polish record on your last video, and one before that you showed a book about Norwegian black metal. So you listen to music that is non-English, right? But my question is that, do you listen to a lot of non-English rap music? And if yes, what are some of your favorites? And finally, how many languages do you speak? As a European, I'm really interested. This brother didn't leave his name. So yeah, it's a few parts to that answer. Yeah, well, the first question would be about the metal. A good percentage, upwards of more than 90-95% of European bands, whether it's black metal, death metal, wherever they're from, Eastern Europe, Western Europe, they typically write their lyrics and their songs are in English. So, off the rip, thinking of bands that don't speak English that I liked, Brujeria always sang their shit in Spanish, and I was a fan of them. But like I said, most of the records that I listen to, where they're on, from other continents, the lyrics are typically written in English, so it's not even really applicable. As far as rap music is concerned, this will sound like typical ignorant American shit, but no, I don't listen to much non-English rap shit. Obviously, because I don't understand it, and it's really, you talk about hip hop and its culture since '72. It's basically based on the drum and words. So if you eliminate half of that for me, I'm not sure. Because I can understand Spanish and Italian, I'm more open to give that shit a try. There's definitely some Spanish shit that I've heard historically that I liked. I liked Spanish reggae a lot before it was called reggaeton. I liked a dude named Gringo a lot back when I was young. So yeah, I'm able to listen to Italian and Spanish shit because I can understand it. I understand it better, both of them better than I speak it. My Italian and Spanish, meds are meds, but I understand both. Yeah, there's a guy, I can't think of his name right now. I'd have to look it up. It's a Cholo brother from Cali. I want to say his name might be OG Crazy Loco. I could be wrong. I'll definitely next time think of what his name is. He got some shit that's real hard that's in Spanish. But yeah, I've heard stuff, you know, from various countries. The beats are dope. I can tell that they can rhyme from a perspective of mechanics. But again, it's mega hard, you know. I can't. It's really hard to understand German. You know, any other language is really outside of Spanish and Italian. It's hard for me. So it's not really. It's not something that I could ever be fully invested in because I don't understand it. But thank you for the question. And yeah, just wrapping up, like I said, most of the European metal bands speak English or do their stuff in English, so it's not as applicable. This next one is about boxing. So again, if you're not interested in boxing, I apologize. I'll try to make it quick. Hey Vinny, I wanted your opinion on Sergey Kovalev and Andre Ward. Can you give a breakdown on how you see that fight going, and who do you think is going to win? Also, just wanted to say I'm a big fan of your music. I've seen you kill it a few times, and you came here to San Antonio. Try and make it back out here soon. This from a brother named Eric. Eric, salute, man. Thank you. Yeah, San Antonio is dope. My Latinos always represent. Gracias. Okay, something that I think Ward Kovalev is a 50-50 fight, but something I don't see people talking about, which is shocking to me because obviously I'm not the foremost expert on the sport, but I'm very shocked that I don't see people talking about how important the referee is going to be because of how much Andre Ward holds and clinches. Whether you hate that, love that, or are indifferent, it's a huge factor. You look at people who are able to do that. It's an old school thing to clinch, punch on the brake, implement those type of tactics, and it's also an important factor of the referee and how much he allows those things to take place. You look at Bernard and Bernard's career and the tactics he was able to implement in his fights. Some of those fights he wouldn't have been able to win had some of those real old school tactics. You're going back to fighters like Joe Gans and Armstrong and Sandy Sadler, who are able to implement these certain things. To be the ref is on your left, you're in a clinch, you might throw a little elbow in there, you might throw a little headbutt in there. Some people call it dirty. Some older aficionados might just call it a trick of the trade that you pick up along the way. Dudes like Bernard and James Toney were students of that. Therefore, they implemented them in different ways into their repertoire. So that part is critical, because will the ref allow Ward to clinch, punch on the break, so on and so forth? I don't think that he can hurt Kovalev. When I say that, I mean not with one punch. I didn't look at Andre as a particularly devastating puncher at 68, so he's definitely not at 75. And Kovalev has been hit by real light heavyweights. There's so many things to gauge when you look at the breakdown of the fight. Ward is obviously a master boxer, so in that category of pure boxing ability, that goes to Ward. Punching power, that goes to Kovalev. Then you talk about ring IQ. Sergey Kovalev's ring IQ, but his boxing IQ is dangerously underrated, criminally underrated. Andre Ward's probably he might be the smartest fighter out there, but it's close when it comes to their ring IQ. Also criminally underrated is Kovalev's footwork. He's not just a plodding, come forward guy, even though it appears that he is. There's a method to the madness. There's techniques that he implements to get in there and do the most damage while not getting touched. You can see those implemented in the Pascal fights. And again, similarly to Golovkin, when he does get touched, he's not phased, which is a scary thing when you're talking about a deadly puncher, because you saw this Michael Myers in Mike Tyson in his prime, and then you saw him get touched by guys who, if you look at it realistically, the people who stopped Mike in his losses, none of them were devastating punches. Lennox could crack a little, but I wouldn't call him a pure puncher. He was a boxer puncher. Buster Douglas, Holyfield wasn't a devastating puncher at heavyweight by any stretch of the imagination. And then you had people like Danny Green, so I'm rambling a bit here, so I apologize. But again, if Ward is able to clinch a lot, he'll probably win a boring 12-round decision. He'll win on points, 116, 112. If Kovalev is given space and not constantly, if he's given room to move his hands and Ward doesn't smother his shots by clinching, there's other ways to smother shots. But if he doesn't smother his shots by clinching, and Kovalev, if he can get those extensions on that punch, that right hand is a monster. I believe that if Kovalev is able, again, to get his shit off in the right range, keep him at the end of his shots, I think Kovalev can win. I think the referee is a very that's not the right word. I'm at a loss for words. The referee is going to be important. I think it's a 50-50 fight. I'm not sure if the referee is announced yet. If you have someone like Steve Smoger refereeing, I'm leaning towards a Kovalev. If you have Steve Smoger works a lot of East Coast fights, and this is in Vegas. Then there's guys who, Vegas is tricky, man, depending on, that Athletic Commission and Rock Nation and everyone that's involved. You know, I'm curious to see who the referee is, because then I'll be able to make, you know, I can break down the fight as much as I want to right now at this second. But the fact of the matter is, I can talk about Kovalev. His jab is, he's got a great jab. It's not just a rangefinder, it's a stiff jab. He sticks it out there and he disrupts the rhythm. If you can disrupt the rhythm of someone who's fluid and relies on fluidity like Ward does, he can, that upsets the whole game plan. Just one punch, the jab will upset everything, and it's a trickle down effect, because then he's taking away the counter shots, because he's so thrown off that he's not, by the time he set the counter, Kovalev's out of there after he landed his shit, you know. So I'll revisit this topic again. I think it was Eric in San Antonio. I'll revisit it again closer to fight time, and when I know who the ref is, and then we can discuss, well, what can Kovalev do to deal with the holding / clinching. Ward's a superb fighter, though, so don't think that I'm, you know, saying that he's not, because he's a pound for pound guy. Besides Chocolatito, you could argue he's the best. He's just been inactive, you know what I mean? Which, for whatever reason, the guy decided to be inactive during his prime years, which that goes in again to things I've talked about in previous videos. With it's a fighter's their chemical makeup. There's no scenario where certain fighters, no matter what the situation, would sit out 2.5, 3 years of their prime. It doesn't matter what you think of from a business perspective. There's chemical makeup where you need to get in there and prove your mettle. That's another topic for another day. To me, it's a 50-50 fight. I love the fight. It was the fight that was to be made. You could argue, to me, on paper, it's closer than Canelo-GGG. It's the dictionary definition of a 50-50 fight. But again, I'll build on that as we get closer. So Eric, shout out, man. Okay. This is okay. Hello, JMT. My question is, how do you feel when you write your rhymes? Do you have to be in a certain mood, and what's your process? That's a question from Dozer, D-O-S-E-R. Obviously a graph writer. Big up, kid. Well, I would say mood from a perspective of, am I in a good mood, bad mood, miserable, hate the world? No, that doesn't affect it. I have a job to do. It might affect what comes out, but I don't let that dictate whether I write or not. I'm very regimented when it comes to the recording process and recording with Scott Stallone, my engineer, and my studio time, and when I'm in there. So I'm writing regardless. Do those moods invariably end up affecting the writing? I'm sure, yeah. I'm sure that some of those moods have created some of the shit that you might love or might not like, because I was in that particular mood. You know, if nothing's pressing on my mind, I typically go into the shit that started me into the rhyming shit, which is just the shit I would be on the street with, which is just essentially braggadocio, shit talking rap. You know what I'm saying? And then things that come along drive you to write things. I wrote the sequel to You Can't Be on a Neutral Train, which is on the new record, and obviously that was inspired by things like Ferguson, Mike Brown, Trayvon, things of that nature. But again, it wasn't a mood that I was in particularly. You know what I mean? The process is literally, this is the process. Right here, you're looking at the process. Basically, if you flip this chair around, this is where I've written everything since probably Violent by Design. Definitely Visions of Gandhi. Headphones on, mega loud. That's why I'm losing my hearing between live shows and sound men who don't know what they're doing with bad monitors blowing out my ears. And constant loud headphones. My hearing is shot because it's been so many years of doing this professionally. So good beats and sitting here with my main man Edgar by my side, and just repetition. Come up with a line, repetition. Might take a piss. Sometimes I get too caught up, so I take the shit off. Put on Sports Center for a minute to break shit up. Watch a boxing video. You know what I mean? Just get up and walk away and then come back to it. But I don't have there's not much method to the madness in terms of my process is crazy. I know Esoteric told me years ago that he writes driving around in his car and he doesn't write anything down. I can verify that the kid has never written anything down. He said it to me before I heard that Jay-Z did it. Eso never wrote anything down. In my earlier years, when I was young, I've always written rhymes in a rhyme book, but I would write things down and memorize them relatively quickly, because when you're not making music for a living, you're honing your craft, rhyming with other MCs. It wasn't always a battle scenario in the late 80s, early 90s, as much as we're all MCs, we're all friends, we're all kicking rhymes. Someone might had a radio instrumental, someone might could beatbox, and you had to have your darts. So I had all of my shit memorized up until there was a certain point, probably the last, well over a decade. I write it, I record it, that's it. I don't know any of my rhymes. People will send me a quote. People will send me a quote that's mine, and I won't know that it's mine. I'll have to ask them who said that bar, or, oh, that's cool. And they're like, well, that's you. And I didn't even know it. I've told y'all before, I feel like it's a little self-indulgent to listen to your music all the time. I always found it strange. I was talking about that today at the barbershop, actually, ironically enough. So those are, shout out, man. Keep being a vandal, too. Speaking of which, any Philly writers, and then in parentheses, graph. So any Philly graph writers you think are going hard, I always looked up to them Philly hands. Salute, man. I respect anybody who respects the Philly hands. Real graph heads know how innovative the Philly writers were. Most people can tell the Philly graph style from a mile away. Cheap plug. My man Liquid is responsible for this. I've known him for 24 years. So your question about Philly graph writers right now, I think there's some questions in here about video games and me playing them, and this answer sort of is applied to that, and that is in terms of new shit. I think the more something takes control of your life, such as music has completely taken control of mine. It's always been my main focus, but I wrote graph as a young kid, but I wasn't as good as everybody I ran with. Shout out Nope, shout out Liquid, but those dudes were light years ahead of me. I just like the thrill. I wrote Crash 77, and then I wrote Icon, IKON. So, dude, as far as younger kids that are catching wreck right now, I can't say that I'm aware, but some Philly heads that are legendary to me or have legendary hands and should be praised. King Met, Cozy, Far, Agua, Free Agua. I haven't seen dude in forever. Mad long. Free Agua. My man Nope, who I've known since I was like 10 years old. Liquid, who I've known 24 years and did all the graph parts for the new record. Delta is a legend. Mad people owe him to being the father of their style. I could go on and on. Baze, DNA. What up, fellas? That's my people. Baze and DNA. So these are all people that have incredible hands to me. Some legends, some incredible hands, some both, some, all friends of mine. But they're people that off rip that I think about. You know what I'm saying? Um, so yeah, I'll continue on here. I'll just do a couple more because it looks like I'm running long here. Um, okay, this is boxing related again. So you know what? This is from a kid named Mario Rubio. Mario, I'm gonna answer this next time because I'm gonna get into some of the shit you asked about, but I'll get back to this question. So shout out to Mario Rubio. But okay, this is your top 5 gangster rap groups, and then the brother goes on to say a question that I always wondered. I don't know if I'm just not hip, but how did you come up with the name Icon the Verbal Hologram? Thanks, Paz. Love you and your work. He didn't leave a name. Salute, brother. Thank you for writing. I guess I'll answer the first part. Your top 5 top 5-ish gangster rap groups. Probably my favorite gangster rap record ever. Probably is from the Convicts. They only had one record on Rap A Lot. That might be the hardest fucking record ever. I love the A-Town Hardheads record. That record's hard as nails. Of course, all the Ghetto Boys records. Grip It on Another Level. The self-titled record that Rick Rubin put out. We Can't Be Stopped. Those records are hard as nails. Who else was out there? Gangster rap wise. Gangster Pat. I love Gangster Pat. Gangster Nip. There was a lot of shit. I was a fan of I'm drawing a blank here. But yeah, check all those records, man. Check the Convicts, check A-Town Hardheads, check Gangster Pat, Gangster Nip. I loved all those records. They're some of my favorite records. Not just gangster, just all together. See what he had. Then he asked about the Icon, the Verbal Hologram name. While I was writing Icon, I-K-O-N, graffiti-wise, it wasn't rare at that time, maybe even anymore, for a person that rhymed to incorporate the rhyme name from their graffiti name. The hologram part, I was reading a lot of Val Valerian, a lot of shit about the concept that we might be living in a hologramic universe, shit like that. Some shit that really would only make sense if you were tripping on LSD or hallucinogens. So that's the shit I was on when that shit came up 20 years ago, you know. So yeah, thanks for the question, man. This is the last one I'm gonna do tonight, but trust me, y'all wrote me good questions. I'll get around to them as they come up. This gentleman writes, thoughts on battle rap. You ever battled anyone? Would you battle now for the right amount of money? I don't have any thoughts on it because I don't watch it. I'm not. How much could I knock something that I don't watch? I have a good friend in Poison Pen who hosts a lot of those events, and he told me I'm sleeping, that a lot of those kids have bars. Diabolic told me the same thing, because I asked them both, yo, do any of these dudes make good records? You know what I mean? Because just, I'm not really too intrigued by standing there back and forth yelling rhymes, because the drum is so integral to hip-hop. It's the cornerstone of the culture. So I want to see your ability to construct these things over drums. Can you pull the same shit off? Saying clever shit, so on and so forth. That part of it is just one aspect of it, simply because you start getting into where I'm like, yo, from the little parts I have seen here and there, it's more like stand-up comedy or like mother jokes almost to me. And then so I checked out some dudes who were and they killed it, or dudes that Penn or Diabolic told me, all right, I know you don't like it, but check out this guy. And I checked it out and saw some dudes that were catching bodies, but it was a few years ago. I don't even remember their names off rip. And then I saw some joints where it was like two terrible, corny white kids just screaming mother jokes at each other, and they were the corniest people I ever saw in my life. I was embarrassed for them. So I don't know much about it. You know what I'm saying? If I was gonna watch it, I'd rather hear some street shit. You know what I'm saying? Not some kid from I don't fucking know where. You know, a fucking cave in Bulgaria rhyming with no. His cadence is trash. His accent is strange. His mechanics are off. And he couldn't make a song of his life dependent on it. It's not really something I'm interested in. As far as have you ever battled anyone, that's a loaded question because shit was different then. You would be rhyming with people. I never felt like this is a battle or this is set up. I rhymed amongst some greats in Philly, New York, wherever when I was younger, from Dice Raw to Tariq, Malik B. But I didn't battle any of those brothers. We were just around. It was more like ciphers. So the answer, if I ever battled anyone, I guess dead up, like me verse, blah, blah, blah. Nah, I just rhymed with people, ciphered with people, where it was like, there's still machismo there. There's still an element of everyone thinking I'm the best. So it was friendly competition, but a set up battle or something, nah. And would you battle now for the right amount of money? If you knew the way my records were and how I get money, you would know that there's no right amount of money for me. It would never make enough sense. I think those battles are done now and today in terms of how they're set up. I've seen people discuss them and they keep using the word rounds. So using the word round. So you would have to give me so much money because each rhyme, that's a rhyme to make a record that could potentially be a big record for me. So you're saying, would you battle now, right now, for the right amount of money? The money would have to be so crazy, no one would be willing to pay me that money. I'm not Jay or Nas, so the money, the number that's in my head is too astronomical for anybody to pay me. Because for me to do all that work, I'd rather make songs with those rhymes. You know what I'm saying? All right, so like I said, yo, if you wrote a question and you feel it was good, it's probably on those pages. I barely scratched the surface. I'm gonna mark off what I answered tonight and continue next week with the next installment of questions. So thank you once again. info@jmthiphop.com in the subject for questions for Paz. I'm gonna just wrap up with the boxing talk. So for anybody who came here for that, you know, this is for y'all. Anybody else you can check out now if you're uninterested. So obviously Canelo hurt his hand. He wasn't going to fight Triple G soon. So that doesn't really affect the Triple G fight. He was going to fight in December. That's off because he says he broke his hand. I don't know if it's true or if it's a stalling tactic and he just hurt it. Again, I told y'all multiple times that I'm a Canelo fan. I'm not shitting on him. It's probably more Oscar, the Triple G, back and forth. But it's looking like they're mandating Triple G, Danny Jacobs. Canelo had a December 10th date. He's not taking that. So Triple G was going to fight in late November. It looks like he's going to take the December date against Danny Jacobs. Now, as far as Golovkin, he'll fight anywhere, anytime. So they can put that shit in Jacobs' backyard in Brooklyn at the Barclays. Or destroy him wherever. But that fight needs to be made. It should be made. There's a little bit of fear on my end that Jacobs/Heyman will try to outprice themselves because they got $1.5 million to fight Quillin in Brooklyn, and it was a disaster from a success standpoint. I think there was 85 people at the Barclays. I think that place holds some of my Brooklyn or New York people would know better, but I'm gonna guess in the 18 to 20,000 range of capacity there. So they didn't even sell half of the tickets of who could fit in there. Okay, so that's a disaster from a gate standpoint. From a rating standpoint, 386,000 people watched it on Showtime. Non-pay-per-view, free TV, well, free cable. That's a disaster of a number. Nobody cared. So Jacobs and Quillin was a failure, and for a failure of a fight, Jacobs got 1.5 million. That's a nice payday for a fight that nobody watched and nobody went to. You know what I mean? In terms of the grand scale, how big the sport is, and talking about Canelo doing 50,000 people at, Cowboy Stadium. I'm just, in comparisons, what we're talking here. 1.5 million to fight a guy who, is what he is in Quillen. I don't know. So my prediction stays the same if and when that fight gets made. It's looking like December 10th. I think Golovkin stops Jacobs before, earlier than he stopped Kell Brook. Dimitri Pirog, body bag Danny Jacobs, and Sergio Mora, who can't punch his way out of a wet paper bag, had Danny Jacobs hurt. Down and hurt. I think, so to me, Triple G by stoppage in under 5. Nothing 5 and under would shock me. It wouldn't stop me if it was the first. That's just me being honest. I like Danny Jacobs. I've met him. I've had a conversation with him. He's definitely in my top 5 nicest guys I've ever met in boxing. I met him at Triple G Curtis Stevens. That's where I met Danny and spoke with him for a minute. He was the nicest guy in the world. And having beat cancer, great story, great guy, great father. It's just, I don't allow any of that come into play when I'm discussing fights. You know what I'm saying? I think he gets demolished. In Canelo Triple G news, moving forward, they're probably looking at September 2017, assuming they continue to win, Triple G and Canelo. Apparently, from Abel Sanchez says that they were offered $10 million for the fight from Golden Boy. Now, you're probably all blown away by how much money that sounds like. And of course, to people like us, that's a lot of money. But you can draw parallels here to when Floyd offered Pacquiao a flat fee of $40 million, and Pacquiao declined it. And the fight eventually happened, and Pacquiao made way more than 40. So we might think that flat fee that Golovkin should jump on it, but you're talking about a pay-per-view that'll probably do around 1 million pay-per-view buys. The gate will be astronomical. It'll be a sellout, probably at Cowboy Stadium, because Jerry Jones says he wants it there. So between the gate and pay-per-view buys, you're talking, 100 million, 150 million, whatever the points are on that. So that's it's an insult to offer him that small of a piece of the pie, for Golden Boy to offer that to Golovkin. Again, it's Oscar doing things so he can say, well, look, we offered him great money. He doesn't want it. We want it. He doesn't want it. That's not true. Don't offer someone peanuts and then act like the best middleweight in the world, you offering him peanuts comparatively to what you're going to walk away with. Canelo going to walk away with 60 million? Win, lose, or draw? Ah, man, that's a Floyd move. Ironically, Oscar's been pulling Floyd moves recently, and he loathes that guy. So, yeah. We got to cross our fingers and hope it happens sooner than later. September 2017, that's what it's looking like. I was hoping May. That's not going to happen. They're stalling with the Canelo hand injury. Again, I love Canelo. I love Triple G. I just want the fight to happen. You have to be able to make shit work in the era where you want to prove you're the best. And Ward and Kovalev are both doing that, and they should be applauded for that. With that said, I'm going to wrap up. On Twitter, it's at Vinnie_Paz. On Instagram, it's BoxCutterPazzy. Facebook, Jedi Mind Tricks. Facebook, Vinnie Paz. If y'all want to check out my podcast, it's just me and my boys talking shit, busting balls. Go to BroadStreetBreakdown.com. You can pre-order this right here, along with merch, you know, hats, shirts, sweatshirts, vinyl, digital, what have you. Go to jmthiphop.com, and Cornerstone of the Corner Store drops on October 28th. And I will see y'all next week. God bless you. Thank you for supporting The Void. And I'll talk to all of y'all next week, all right? Peace.